All right. Hello and good evening, everyone. Looks like we are live and in action. I want to first start out by thanking everyone for joining us in this discussion tonight with with a special guest that I will introduce in just a moment. As we all know, here in Augusta-Richmond County, we have a very, very, very important election that's taking place tomorrow, Tuesday, May 24th. I hope that by now you've done your research, you've been reviewing the candidates that are running for various offices. Of course, we have commission seats that are up for grabs. We have judgeships up for grabs. We have, of course, the big race in Augusta-Richmond County, the race for mayor. And so I count it a privilege and an honor to join with all of you out there who are supporting various candidates, but also having a platform that gives us an opportunity to have a conversation with us. How about that? So without further ado, I don't want to delay things. And I want to make sure that we have more than enough time to discuss, your questions, give us an opportunity to meet this special guest of ours for tonight, and do all that I can to give him as much time as necessary to allow you all to make an informed decision as you head out to the polls tomorrow morning. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up our special guest for tonight. We have none other than Mr. Garnett Johnson. Mr. Johnson, welcome to the Tyrus Tillman Show, sir.
So, Mr. Tillman, thank you so much. This is a great honor to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to educate your viewers and your supporters a little bit more about my background.
Absolutely, and I'm absolutely looking forward to it. Thank you so much for accepting the invite. Great friend of mine's, Rebecca Salter, put this all together, reached out, and she said, Tyrus, hey, I know that you interviewed one candidate last week, but I think that it's a great time to get someone else on. We have so many different folks that are running for office this year, and so I'm so glad that you were able to make time, sir, to come and chat with us tonight.
Yeah, it's a privilege. You people say all the time that elections are important, and just being able to express your positions through your vote, it's one of the greatest freedoms that we have in our democracy. And for the first time, I'm proud to be able to say that I'm a participant in the process, not only in voting but actually being a candidate.
Yes, sir. Well, we have a lot to cover, and I don't want to delay things. I do see that a great number of people have already tuned in. Thank you all so much, but I don't want you just to view and watch this discussion. I want you to join in. I want it to be interactive. So if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. I'll bring them up as we progress throughout tonight's discussion. Also, before we get started, make sure that you share this video, share this live. Make sure that all of your family and friends have an opportunity to witness just what we're discussing tonight, and also to be a part of this conversation. So please like, share the video. It's free right there. Just hit it. Bop, bop, right there. Just hit share, and make sure that so many people who may not have known that we were going live have an opportunity to do so. So I'm going to jump right in. Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Tell me about yourself. Give me your elevator speech. Who are you? Where you're from? Give us the details.
Yeah, certainly. So my name is Garnett Johnson. I was born and raised down in East Augusta. And I often say a place where people say there's not a lot of opportunity. I was born to a 15-year-old mother, teenage mother. Even though she married my dad young, my dad was an over-the-road truck driver where I didn't see him much of my life until I was about 15 years old. If anybody knows anything about truck drivers, they come in often in the middle of the night and wash clothes, and they're gone the next day. So I was essentially raised by a single mother, and what most considered one of the highest crime, highest poverty, in an area where they say there's not a lot of great educational opportunities. Had a great mother who was always engaged and involved in my life, but early on I didn't make a lot of great choices in that. I didn't have very good friend groups. My mother said I was hanging out with the knuckleheads and the thugs and and the projects of places what I endeared: the Underwood Homes, Delta Manor, Marion Homes, Augusta Homes, some of the same areas that today are challenged, as a result of poverty and crime. But my mother saw fit to kind of change my path and send me in a different direction where I created different friend groups. And I realized that not only could I graduate from high school, but there were other opportunities for me to go to college and do other things. So I went to college and failed miserably, and then came back and graduated as a non-traditional student. Realized that I had a knack for creating deals, and I credit that with some of my inner city upbringing and some of my inner city education. And I went into the sales world, and that, I saw that I had a unique skill set for creating mutually beneficial relationships, and relationships is key in that. I know how to find win-win situations, so long as the other side has an open ear and an open mind to progress and to win. So that's my background. I'm a sales guy at heart, but I'm a small business owner that's passionate about entrepreneurship. I've never been involved in any political campaign as a candidate, nor have I ever worked for any government agency. So I tend to take an outside look as to how things can get done a little bit more efficiently. People always say there's a lot of bureaucracy in government, and I tend to believe that, and I believe that oftentimes you got to have someone from the outside just to have a different perspective on how to get things done. And certainly that's my approach to this race. My platform is based on three simple terms as I run for mayor: it's growth, action, and results. I believe firmly that, and the statistics support it, that Augusta has not grown in 10 years, and that our neighboring counties are growing exponentially faster than we are. We need someone who stands on the side of the taxpayers that can get things done. And lastly, I told you I'm a sales guy. We need someone who's results oriented to get those things done. And in sales, if you don't move the numbers, you're not going to be in sales. You're not going to be successful. You're not going to earn a living. So I've had a successful track record of doing all those things.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir, for that. You're absolutely right. I believe that sometimes it takes fresh ideas, a fresh start, a do-over, as you will,
Yes.
if you will, of how business has been done, right?
Yes.
I am definitely someone who understands sales. I've spent most of my adult career in sales, mostly
Really?
telecommunication sales, and I've managed a number of types of businesses quite successfully, if I might add
That's
myself.
amazing.
So being able to connect with people
Mm.
and sell based on a need
Yes,
is definitely exactly what I think a lot of politics is
it is.
selling your message to people who
Yes.
have a need for what you're selling, and sometimes they just don't know how to get that, how to
No,
make
no,
that happen, right?
you're exactly right.
So I definitely appreciate you sharing your background with
Mm.
us. So you mentioned that you're born and raised here in Augusta, Georgia. What high school did you go to?
So I went to Butler High School, and as I was
My
saying,
man.
Butler High School, the class of 1987. Butler
Awesome.
class
Wow.
of 87. And I tell you, I was zoned to go to Laney, but my mother, the summer of when I finished the eighth grade year, she sat me down at our kitchen table crying and said, "You know what? I'm concerned for your future in that." And at the time, she was working a second shift job at a company called Murray Biscuit Company,
Oh,
packing
so
company.
did my grandmother.
Really? That's
Yes.
right. That's right. You know what? That's probably how my mother got that. Well, let me tell you the story. So back then, Murray, when she would come on, she always smelled good because it smelled like cookies. And she said that, I'm concerned for your future. The only thing I want for you is to graduate high school. But she worked this second shift job, and she got home around 11:30. So long as I beat her home, I got home before 11:30. I was golden. So I would hang out in these neighborhoods, getting in this trouble with these knuckleheads, and what I consider, she had this intervention in my life to where she said, "You know what? I see you're heading in the wrong direction, so let me change your friend groups." And she sent me to school out of zone. I went kicking and screaming. I really wanted to go to Laney. It was a great school, but I was running with the wrong crowd, man. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know it until I had actually made the change, but I was. I acknowledge it now. And sometimes you just need that intervention from a parent to put you in a different place and on a different trajectory. And I'm just proud that my mother did that. So I'm grateful for
Absolutely.
that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you too are a bulldog. I am as well. I do see a couple of folks in the comments that are shouting out their high school. One of my favorite people in the CSRA, Inga Pollard Gant, said, "That's right, Wildcats." She's a Laney Wildcat. So my condolences always to the Laney Wildcats crew. They weren't fortunate enough to go to Butler. And
Well, I can't talk about it. There's a lot of my friends, and I still hang out down there. So that's where all of my East Augusta. I went to school, Sandbar Ferry, and then East Augusta. So I still have a lot of friends. That
Absolutely.
live
Well, I love the Wildcats too. Oddly enough, my father is a graduate of Laney, as
there. Okay.
well as my stepmother. So they're
Wow.
class of 77.
Wow.
So a few years before you, but yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's
have some blood down there as well in the
wow.
bottom.
That's good to know. I love the bottom. It's a great area.
Absolutely. All right. So I want to also kind of get into a couple of more details about you. I
Sure.
understand that you are a local businessman,
Hmm.
quite successful from what
Hmm.
I've researched and found.
Hmm.
Tell us about your business, sir, and what do you bring to the table from a business owner aspect?
Sure. So I sell pens and paper clips and office furniture. When we're fortunate enough, when I got into this sales world, and I was offered a job with a company, and I started my career with one of these big box companies that specialize in national agreements. And for people that don't know, big companies like Wells Fargo Bank, Delta Airlines, Truist Bank, they don't go out to a traditional store to buy anything. They tend to procure these products through a what we call a station, an office supply company that sets up national accounts with consistent pricing and consistent delivery. So that's where I kind of started, selling national accounts in the private sector, then to I went over to the government, federal government sector, then to the healthcare sector. So I learned how to create these relationships, selling some of the simplest things that I can even myself imagine earning a living. Pens and paper clips. How can you sell those and make enough money to create a living? And I'll be honest, I was quite successful at it. Managing the business, growing the business, managing a sales team, working in very what I call sometimes stressful and intense situations. Very very sophisticated contract negotiations. I've been fortunate to win awards with state contracts and federal government, and so hundreds of millions of dollars in deals. So I realized that when the recession hit in 2007, 2008, a lot of the people that we were hiring were younger. A lot of the people that we were laying off were middle aged. And I told my wife, I said, at some point, this could potentially be us. I don't want to wait till I'm middle age and get laid off with my kids in college, and and be another victim of what's happening now. So we prayed about it, and a lot of people don't believe this. I talked to everybody in my family. Say, I'm thinking about making a go of this on my own, and I didn't have a single supporter, man. My dad told me I was crazy. He said, "You fool, you better not quit that job." Um, no one supported us, but my wife. We took everything that we owned and earned and poured into a business, and I can tell you how we did it. Always was paid well because you know this. If you're a good salesperson, you never have to worry about getting paid, or you never have to worry about a job. Good salespeople always work and they always earn, because I was always an earner. But because you earn, and I'm just going to throw a number. If you're making $200,000 a year, you don't live on 200. You live on 100 and you save 100. So it gives you the opportunity to make moves, and that's been our position throughout my career. Even though we make great money, we always put away money for rainy days, and we never want to become a slave to an organization. So when it was time to walk away, I guess it was a little easier in doing it. So we took everything that we had saved and earned to chase this dream of entrepreneurship, to create a better life for my wife and my daughters, and just to show that this young kid who grew up in an area, and I'm gonna say this term all the time, I was disadvantaged when I was born. I was poor. I'm black, and I'm in an impoverished area. So I realized that there are obstacles from the beginning. But I think if you execute a strategy right to show others that you could do it, it certainly helps to ease the pain and not create the opportunity to go to the right and do some of what I consider some of the more criminal things. So that's what I've used my entrepreneurial spirit in doing, is just showing others that if you work hard and save your money, there's a potential that you can become a business owner and become successful, instead of wanting to be or be an NBA player, NFL player, or rapper or anything. Small business is the way to go. So that's what I've been prideful in that where I've come from, and where I am now. And I don't really consider myself that successful. I just think that I got blessed by the Lord, and I have a great wife that supports me. But we've just been able to grow the business. So I mean,
Absolutely.
and I'm a passionate. I'm very passionate about showing others the way, and that as small business owners, especially in the African American community, we tend to be siloed. And you probably know what this is. There are a lot of us in this community. There's a lot of successful business owners, but they tend to want to kind of be off, not so much off the radar, but they don't share the knowledge. They don't want to. We got to share this knowledge with others, so they could see the way. I mean, we got to mentor some of these people to show them that, you know what, here's a better path if you really want to move the needle with this great problem that we have in this country, and it's, you know, this generational wealth gap. You know,
Absolutely.
we have,
Absolutely.
we have to close that. So that's what I
Yes.
want to be trying to educate others. And small business and entrepreneurship is a great way to do that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for that. And you did raise several points throughout that. One of them being, I personally know that, of course, like the word of God says, people perish for the lack of knowledge. We know that it is imperative that we can reach back and inform those who are
Sure.
coming up behind us,
So important.
those who are even trying and struggling to come up beside us, even, right?
Mm, yes,
We are better as a community when we reach out and share
that's key.
knowledge and,
That's
and
right.
wealth and the great wealth of knowledge that we've amassed and kind of collected and accumulated through the years.
Mhm.
It's not all about us, wondering or worrying if someone's going to pass us. I want you to be
Right.
successful in your lane, because when you're successful in your lane and I'm successful in my lane, then together we're growing. And
You're
I'm
right.
not
And I want to say, you know, being envious does not get you anywhere. You always want to be cheerful and happy for somebody else getting. And I'll tell you, when you do that, it tends to lead to you being more successful. It makes you earn a little bit more and dig a little deeper to work harder. And you know, this entrepreneurial role, being a small business owner, it's not easy, man. It's a lot
right.
of challenges. It's a lot of headaches. But you know, if you execute it right, it can be so rewarding. So rewarding.
Absolutely. I've been reaping some of those benefits, a lot of those benefits,
Mhm.
just within the last year. Actually, I'm coming up on my 1 year anniversary of officially legally launching my business, Tyrus Productions LLC, and all of the events and so forth that I do, and learning about business credit,
Mhm.
going through those vendor accounts and
Yes.
Uline and Quill and all of
Yeah,
that, the pens and paper clips,
that's right.
and learning how to build, my business legitimately.
Sure.
It's something that a lot in my family, especially, even those who have been
Right, right.
hustling their whole lives, they knew nothing about a DUNS number,
You don't.
or about, how to utilize and make and allow business credit to work for you and things of that nature. So just all of the partnerships that I've made and cemented over the past year has really come from right here in our community, just reaching out to friends, and we've been building each other up. So that's really, really, really major. I see that you were with a great friend of mine's today, Jamie, out at Sassy Nail
Oh my
Studios.
goodness. You know, I got to brag on her for a minute because she's a go-getter and she's a boss. In that,
Absolutely.
you know, I met Jamie and she puts on this great award show called the Small Business Awards, and
Which I had the pleasure of hosting this year.
you were hosting, and you're right. So I'm gonna challenge you with doing one thing. If we could bring those people in to kind of get their business structure set up and get them moving in the right direction to bring them out of the shadows, can you imagine how powerful their voices would be if
Wow.
you were to do that? Like you said, setting up a DUNS number,
Mhm.
setting up business credit, establishing themselves, no matter what you do,
Right.
and then you combine your effort together by through collaboration, either joining the Greater Augusta Black Chamber where they're doing a phenomenal job, or joining any chamber just to get a voice.
Right.
That's what we need in this community.
Absolutely.
You know, this community, there are there's probably billions of dollars in procurement contracts that could be had if we get, you know, more businesses that, you know, represented our community to move this city forward. And
Absolutely.
that will be part of my mission as mayor, to make sure that we get a bigger piece of the pie. I'm gonna be honest with you,
Absolutely.
because a recent
Absolutely.
disparity study has shown that 80%, 87% of the dollars that have been spent by our local government go to, you know, larger white-owned companies, and that certainly is not representative of our community as a demographic. And we got to, you know, work a little harder to make sure that we get more smaller businesses of a color, more women businesses involved in that process.
Awesome, awesome. You're absolutely right, sir. So look, listen, Mr. Johnson, we've had an opportunity to kind of get to know you more. I know that I've gained a lot of new information that I couldn't find through Google or through garnettformayor.com.
Right.
And so I always love to add that personal touch,
That's
especially
right.
here in
Yes.
local politics, because we are a humongous small community.
We are.
So because of that, there's going to be times where we're all going to come in contact with each other, and it would behoove you to get to know your elected officials and those who are running for office. So thank you for sharing some of your personal life with us. I do want to make sure that we are honoring those who are tuning in and joining tonight's discussion. And I think that the best way to do that is to allow them to ask questions directly to you, sir.
Yes, sir. I would love to
Um,
answer any question they may have.
Absolutely. So I'm going to just scroll all the way back up because I do know that a good number of questions have already been listed here in the chat. I do want to start out by saying I would appreciate, y'all know that this is my platform and I am quite liberal and transparent and open. However, I demand respect. And so I just would ask that any comments or questions that you may add to the chat, please afford Mr. Johnson the same level of respect that you would want for yourself as well as myself. So just be respectful in your questions and your comments, and I will do my very best to get to as many, if not all of them, as we possibly can. Okay? How about that, Mr. Johnson?
Sounds great. I don't mind answering any questions, even the ones that that may think that or seem to be controversial. I'm willing to answer anything. I don't have anything to hide.
Well, glad that you said that because it looks like I saw a couple of them in there. So we're going to go back up to the top. My good friend, Christine Howard, has the first question of tonight. And she says, and I'll post that up here on the screen, what will you do as mayor to grow Augusta forward?
Yeah, that's, I say that, and as I told you, the first three words that center around my campaign: growth, action, and results. We got to grow our small businesses in our city so that we can grow our economic base. There's three ways you could grow the city. You can grow by population, but as you know, we're not growing in 10 years. Augusta has only experienced a 3% growth rate. That's stagnant at best. So if you're not going to do that, you got to create opportunities for people to want to live and call themselves Augustans. So in order to grow our population, we got to grow our economic base through small business ownership, through encouraging those young people that as they graduate college or high school to want to come back and start families here. We got to address some of the needs of the school system. And I'm going to go on the record and say it. We don't have a bad school system. We spend per student as much as in Richmond County as they do in Columbia County, but we have some challenging parenting situations. I said this in a barbershop the other day, and people say, well, what do you mean we have bad parents? We have bad parents in that some parents just don't know that it requires parenting to send your kids off to school. Teachers don't often have the luxury of being able to handle discipline issues and teaching issues and all the other things that go along in the classroom today. We got to have better engaged parents to make sure that these students, when they're sent to school, that we don't have the discipline issues. And I can speak to this personally in that I was one of those students that, I went to a challenging school environment, but my mother, even though oftentimes she didn't know how to help me, she always sought help for me. And she always forced me or made it that I was always respectful to the teacher and that I did my homework and that I followed up on everything as it relates to my education. So that's one thing we got to do: get our confidence going in our educational system again, grow our economy through small business growth. We got to clean the city up. As you know, I think on our roadways, litter is a major problem. We got to start what I call a keep it clean campaign and be prideful in that. This is our city and we want to keep it clean. And it's hard to attract those economic opportunities when we have some of the filthiest roadways. So just some of the smallest things that don't cost a lot of money, but we have to at least be willing to have the conversation. About, how we can make this city better instead of just complaining about it. And me, with my background, I have a track record of getting things done. I've invested private dollars into the community, and I've also invested in a campaign headquarters that sits in a building now that has been blighted and vacant since 2017. So I know how to get it done. I am a business owner and I'm a salesperson, so I know what it's like to assume risk to get things done with private dollars. It's a big difference between private dollars and government dollars. I don't have the luxury, if I run out of money, to go back and ask the taxpayers to pay more by raising their fees or the millage rate or reassessing the value of their homes. We have to get it right the first time or you're out of business. And that's what I believe right now the citizens of Richmond County deserve: somebody who stands on their side to get things done, to make those tough calls, to stand up and look in the mirror and say, we need to do better. So that's who I am. And I tell people all the time, if Augusta is growing and going, I'm not going to be the candidate to win this race because they're going to say, everything's fine in Augusta. We're growing. The pie is big, but I beg to differ, and the statistics stand on my side in that we're not growing, and we certainly aren't going. Columbia County is. Aiken, North Augusta is. So when are we going to get it going and growing? It takes leadership. And we only have a small window to get it done in that. Now we're the third largest city in the state. Columbus is now Georgia's second largest city. And Savannah is when I say nipping on their heels, I mean, they're right on us, man. They had a great announcement last week where they're getting ready to get a new electrical vehicle automobile manufacturer. And, they're fortunate to have the Georgia Ports Authority that's creating an enormous amount of jobs. And they got 15 million, listen to this, 15 million annual visitors that go to Savannah. So they have some great things that certainly has positioned them to easily eclipse us as Georgia's third city. So that's why I'm passionate, and that's why I'm in this race.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. And I'm looking at a number of questions that are coming through. I do want to jump to Tammy Jefferson Williams. Her question was, are you a Republican or a Democrat, and do you support Governor Kemp?
So I have been a lifelong Democrat my entire life. Born, like I say, poor. We didn't have anything. We didn't live in the housing projects. But actually, believe this, the people that lived in the housing projects lived better than us. I lived in this old ragged house that I still have pictures of today, and I used to be embarrassed about it. Never had the opportunity to have friends over besides the people that lived close because we were poor. We didn't have anything. So I have voted for President Obama twice. I voted for Stacey Abrams. I voted for Senator Warnock, and he's been in our building on many occasions. We actually held a fundraiser for him where we raised a lot of money for him. Now, my relationship with Governor Kemp, I didn't vote for him. Neither did I support him in his first run for governor. But after he was elected, he reached out to me and said, you know what? You're a small business owner. I want to understand some of the issues that you have in doing more business in the state of Georgia. I want to hear your pains. I want to understand how we can help you grow your business. He reached out to me on that. So, and then after reaching out and after I told him, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the record. When he asked me, I say, Governor Kemp, I think it's unfair that we got one of these large big box companies that has a monopoly on the office supply industry in the state of Georgia, and small businesses in Augusta and Macon and Valdosta and Tifton, Georgia. We're not able to sell to the state of Georgia because you got this monopolistic contract in place. And he heard that. And he said, you know what? I got this commission called the Georgians First Commission. And you probably never heard of this. As governor, that was the very first act that he put in place to look at how the state of Georgia spends their dollars throughout the vendor and the procurement process. And he realized one of the largest departments, the Department of Transportation, which spends billions of dollars in repaving road, building bridges, and all these things. A lot of those dollars were being spent with companies outside of Georgia. And so he acknowledged we need to take care of our own first before we go giving these contracts to people that's outside our state. So he identified that, and that's where it resonated with me. If he cares enough to help a little small business owner like me and to hear me out, that's the only connection we have. As a mayor, you need someone that don't agree with a person on every single thing. My only connection with Governor Kemp is through small business. Senate Bill 202 vehemently oppose it. I do. I mean, so as a business owner, I can't just sell to Republicans. I can't sell to Democrats. I have to sell to anybody who wants to buy my products. I don't sell to black. I don't sell to white. But here's what I tell you as a candidate for mayor. There is no one else in this race that is not only in the room, but that sits at the table to get something done. As a salesperson, I have always sold myself on a person to get to the highest level possible to reach the decision maker, the person that ultimately makes a decision to buy from me. That's important. As your mayor, you need someone that can do the same thing. If I need to get in touch with Governor Kemp, he's just a phone call away. And a direct phone call away. If I need to get in touch with Stacey Abrams, she's just a phone call away. Senator Warnock, they're just a phone call away. As a mayor of Augusta, we need an Augustan, independent of partisanship, to get things done. That's who I am. I don't see black or white. I don't see Democrat or Republican. I see Augusta first. And that's who I'm going to be fighting for. I'm not going to be worried about a label or party affiliation or color or any of that. We need to get this city winning. And I don't care who's willing to come down and sit at the table with me to talk about getting us winning. That's who I am.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you taking on that question.
Yep.
I'm sure that that probably came about because we've seen a number of videos and so forth
Mhm.
circulating social media and so forth regarding, the donations of from yourself, your wife, an
Yep.
employee or something of the
Yep.
sort. And again, I mentioned earlier that I too have been in sales for quite a while,
Mhm.
and I have always lived by. I don't care what you look like, where you come from. If you're trying to spend and I got what you need, you're sold. You're
Get the,
good and sold.
but,
And I
if you don't mind, let me address
yes
that
sir, yes sir.
donation. So I guess through my work on these small business initiatives, the governor thought enough of me to appoint me to one of the most powerful, influential boards in the state of Georgia. It's the Georgia Department of Economic Development, where Georgia's been the number one state for business for 8 years in a row. So after that appointment, someone invited me to a dinner with a minimum giving level. I knew the giving levels going in. So did my wife. We knew the giving levels, and it was from some other influential people in Augusta saying, "Hey, the governor's coming to town. We're having a dinner. Here's the giving level." So I told my wife, I said, I've never been invited to a this expensive of a dinner my whole life. But we went and we knew it was going to get out, and we gave the money, and that was after he was elected, after I was appointed to the board. So it was no quid pro quo, none of any of those things. I didn't support him during his run for governor. I didn't vote for him, but I think, as I mentioned, that's what Augusta needs: somebody that could build the bridges to regardless of partisanship, to win for Augusta.
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. Thank you so much for breaking that down. Quid pro quo. I got a very diverse group here, so that means this for that.
This was that.
Uh,
So to clear the record up, I didn't give Governor Kemp some money, and then he appointed me to the board. He didn't promise me anything, and
Grease and palms.
because I can tell you, there's a lot more people that would have given a lot more money for that appointment. I can assure you that, and it was never discussed. And I gave the money. My wife gave the money. Now my coworker, the guy who works with me, yeah, man, whatever he gives, I was on him. I didn't have anything to do with that. But it is what it is. So I don't know how they kind of put all that together. But they didn't mention that when we had Senator Warnock here, he's been here twice, and where we had an exclusive event where we've asked people to give, and we raised a lot of money. They didn't mention that.
Right.
Nor did they mention when we've given Stacey Abrams a lot of money in her run for office. And let's talk about Francis Johnson, who last time ran against Rick Allen, and I was invited to many events. They don't talk about the thousands of dollars we give these, but they pick and choose the information they want. They want you to kind of slander you on. So I just want to set the record straight.
I appreciate that. Mr. Johnson, if you don't know anything else about Tyrus, I am a record straighting cat.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell it like it is in the way
Please.
that the only way that I know how. And so I can respect and appreciate anyone who isn't afraid to do just that, sir. So
Never
I
afraid.
really appreciate that. I have another question here from Rebecca, dear friend of mine's, Rebecca. What are your ideas for economic growth and development in South Augusta and the continued growth of downtown?
Yeah, so I'm gonna start with South Augusta first because I tell this story all the time. I kind of use this city and use an analogy of having kids. You got two kids that are in school. One of them just automatically just gets it. You don't have to help them with their homework; they're just automatically gifted. But yet you got this other that kind of needs help from time to time. And I kind of liken that to South Augusta and downtown. South Augusta in that when we decided to run for mayor, we intentionally went to South Augusta because I'm gonna go ahead and say it. It's a shame that if you live out there, you got to drive to West Augusta to go to a distant restaurant, to go to a movie. A lot of people are now telling me that they can't even get good quality vegetables in South Augusta. So I realized that we needed to be there, and that we had this corner that had been, abandoned and vacant and blighted. And I said, you know what? We need to make a difference. We need to make a change. And in order to show people that we're really serious in doing this, we're going to show them. We're not going to talk about it. So for months, we were working in this building, and I had people coming up to me asking them if it was going to be a title pond, if it was going to be a liquor store, a number of things. But we intentionally went out there to show people that we could start this transition, one parcel at a time. And I guarantee you that after this mayor's race is over, that building is going to be put back into service as something that benefits the citizens of South Augusta. So South Augusta needs some help. Right now you don't have a lot of opportunities for lifestyle things for kids to do. That's something that's going to be addressed when I become mayor, and it's going to be immediate. There are some infrastructure needs where there's a lot of citizens that are still on septic systems. I noticed when I'm driving down Windsor Spring Road, especially upper part of Windsor Spring Road towards Tobacco, there's no lighting. It's dark and there's no striping. A day like today when it's been raining, at night you can't even tell what lane you're in. So some of the simplest things that don't cost a lot of money that needs to be addressed, and it takes someone that's in a leadership role to address them. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to go on the record again. If you've been electing the same people representing you in South Augusta and you're living in the condition that you're living in, you need to hold them accountable. Don't laugh, Mr. Tillman. You know it's the truth. You keep recycling the same politicians, giving you the same results, and you complain. You stop this tomorrow. The 24th, tomorrow is voting day. Time for change. That's what I'm saying. Now, when it comes to downtown Augusta, so I'm going to tell you. So I invested in a property. I have a campaign headquarters at the corner of 11th and Telfair, and I would encourage all of your listeners, all of your supporters, everybody to come down and take a look at what we've done. So we bought a piece of property that was, oh my goodness, it was the ugliest property in all of downtown, and we chased another dream. And this is going to be funny. My wife and I convinced the bank to loan us some money to build a building. This little poor kid from downtown who came here. The only thing we came to Telfair Street was to buy cars. This is where you used to buy all the automobiles. So today, to have a piece of property here and to see this transition that's happening with the apartments and with the younger people that's living downtown. But there's even challenges in that. A lot of people say, well, you got it made because you own commercial real estate. But what about the people that depend to live downtown and where the rent rates are going sky high? And they're right. So as mayor, we're going to have to address that. I have a nice apartment building that just opened behind me. I think a one-bedroom apartment is, I don't know, $1,200, $1,400, $1,600 a month. There's another one that's going under construction across me, and that's going to be market rate at, $1,200, $1,500, $1,600 a month. They're displacing our community and shipping them to South Augusta because they can't afford to live down here. Now, I know there's some projects that we recently announced, but we got to get more of them because out in South Augusta, there's inadequate transportation. If you live out at the corner of Windsor Spring and Tobacco, you can't even get a bus to come downtown unless it takes you half a day, if you're lucky. I can't make it up. You keep electing the wrong people. These are things that should have been addressed a long time ago. So that's what I mean by South Augusta. It's downtown. It's going to thrive. The university down here, the cyber center with the state of Georgia, more campus housing and more student housing. They're doing some great things, but unfortunately, it's going to displace more and more people that really need to have affordable places to live, and it's going to make it challenging to remain downtown. And my fear is they're going to continue to what I consider warehouse people to South Augusta. We have to change that.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I am a South Augusta native, born, raised, educated in South Augusta. I do now still reside in South Augusta. I've lived away from Augusta a number of times in major metropolitan cities across the country. I've always loved coming back home to Augusta, unlike a lot of my classmates. They graduated high school, went to college, maybe in the state of Georgia, but then they hightailed it out of here because the city wasn't ready or wasn't progressing in the way and at the speed that they and we needed and wanted, right? And so I am confident that South Augusta is still going to progress forward, but I just don't always know exactly what that looks like and how that's going to happen. And so you're right. We've done a lot of, my grandma, my great aunts, my great uncles, and so forth, who are all dead and gone for many years. If one or two of them say that they were voting for so-and-so or brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so, the whole family did. That time for me is over. And I think that it's going to take more of my peers in this generation to realize that we have to go out and do our own research and use some common sense. Some folks stay in office too long. And at some point, their effectiveness wears off, right? I'm not saying
this. Not only stay in office too long, when they're starting to pick their replacements, that's not our democracy.
Pick their replacements. You better talk, sir.
No, that's not our democracy. You know, our folks have only been really voting for what, a generation and a half. You know, back in the 50s and 60s, we had to fight and earn this right to vote. Now we've gotten to a point to where we have become kingmakers, to where we're saying, all right, well, my term's up, you're up next. And we're discouraging people from wanting to participate in the democratic process. We got to somehow stop that.
Yes, sir.
I think the more competition you have in any race makes our democracy better. It makes our candidates stronger.
You're right.
It makes them go out and work harder. So that's what we need to encourage
I
more and
agree.
more. And I tell people all the time, you probably know, I've said it. There are 9 candidates in this race to become mayor. I tell people all the time, you look at every single candidate, look at their background, look at their experience, look at their track record, and you determine based on that who's the best candidate that you feel can move the city forward. That's what we need to do in every single race. Don't vote for me because you know my aunt or my cousin. Look at my track record. Don't vote for me because I grew up in the bottom. Look at my track record of doing. And doing is not always talking about something, not always, being on camera, because that's not who I am. I'm a quiet person that believes in staying in the shadows, but getting it done and just looking back and smiling and saying, man, look at what we've done when people say we couldn't do it. I don't need any hoopla about it. I don't need any accolades of doing something. I just like getting it done. It doesn't matter to me. It benefits the community. It benefits everybody. So that's where we are.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, I am quite transparent and honest in all that I do. At least I attempt to do so. A couple of months ago, there was a moment where some information was shared about your involvement with bringing home a grieving mother for her child's funeral, and a lot of information was being shared through social media. I thought was distasteful and so forth. And a number of your supporters actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, Tyrus, that's not who he is. He wouldn't have done anything for show." And I took them at their word. I trust them. I believe in what they tell me because I do call a number of them friends.
Sure.
And so I did want to mention that when you bring up that you don't do anything for show and so forth, and that may be why a lot of what you've done has seemed to have been in the shadows of others. So I won't go too far into that out of disrespect.
I'm gonna take you into it because
well, let's go. Okay.
So it was brought to my attention that this young lady that was incarcerated, that and I understand the sheriff's position in that he couldn't advocate one way or the other to get her home. And so I don't have a lot of influence. I don't know a lot of people, but there's 2 people that you need to thank for making that happen. One, his name is Wayne Dasher. He's a guy that lives down in South Georgia. He serves on the board for the Department of Corrections, and I think he's also appointed by Governor Kemper. Wayne Dasher. And the second is our great Senator Max Burns. So Max and Wayne obviously are friends, and I just called Wayne, and I was like, Wayne, here's an opportunity. This woman, through no fault of her own, is having to bury a daughter, and she ought to be able to be there to see it. And so Wayne Dasher and Max Burns made that happen. I just was the facilitator to just get the conversation started. I couldn't call anybody and say, hey, get this young lady home. They made it happen. And you know what? When I saw her, it was amazing on how beautiful she was. She wasn't beautiful. You couldn't even tell she was even incarcerated.
That's right.
Well, that's what brought tears to my eyes, to see her and her family together at that moment, celebrating the life of a young child that shouldn't not even have been there.
That's right.
So I don't need any credit for it, but if you want to call and thank anybody, Wayne Dasher and Max Burns, you call them and thank them because they made that happen.
Thank you, sir. You are absolutely right. Just reliving that day. I do also sing and lately a lot of funerals. And that was one that I was present for and sang it. And those are always the most difficult ones. But the mother was absolutely beautiful. And I know that in that moment, all she cared about was that loss that she was experiencing, and being able to, though, be surrounded by her family and closest friends. So thanks to Mr. Dasher, Mr. Burns, Max Burns. He was formerly our...
he's still a state senator. He covers a part of Richmond County and some of Burke, and he gets down to that, I think, Jenkins, Scriven County.
Okay.
So he is actually a member of our legislative delegation. So, much of that could be credited to him and Mr. Dasher for making that happen. And, they made the call and they actually got it done.
Well, thank you, sir, for setting the record straight. Again, I like you. I don't run from any tough conversations or anything of the sorts. But I'm also always man enough to admit if I'm wrong or to ask more questions if I don't understand.
Exactly.
So thank you, sir. Tyreek Robinson has a question. I believe that this is a Cross Creek graduate, so another great young leader here in South Augusta. His question is, Mr. Johnson, how do you feel about young people in elected offices? Do you feel there's a need for young people to be in position for leadership or of leadership?
Most definitely. If anybody meets the qualifications to run for any political office under my leadership, I'm going to encourage them to run. You go out there and not be afraid or be intimidated by the people that are trying to discourage you. We need young minds. We need young different opinions. We need just to change the vibe of these political offices. I can't tell you enough. No one is entitled to any political office that we have anywhere. No one is entitled. So don't let them discourage you that you're too young, that you haven't made your rounds to what the political kingmakers. If you feel as though you're qualified and you've worked hard in this community, I encourage anybody to run for office, regardless of how young you are. So we need more of them. So this next election cycle, I'm going to ask all of them to come out. We need everybody to run. We need different people. We need to make these races more competitive. It should never be a race where someone is sitting, as a 2 or 3 term elected official uncontested. Competition makes us better. And hopefully we can encourage that, after, with this race.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for that. I think that over the past, just several years, we've started to see more and more younger candidates, especially for local government.
Yes.
Jordan Johnson, another
Yes,
Cross Creek alumni, to Mr. Robinson as well. Jeremy Johnson, I don't know if there's any relation there. Okay, is running in this election cycle, more and more, 30s and early 40s and even late 20-year-olds are now jumping in the political field. And I think that that's when we're doing the right things as a society, when we realize that we can't just have conversations around it. We can't just voice our concerns and disdain for government. We have to be a part of government.
You have to be a part of it. And I think that that age diversity adds to helping us become a better community. You need the voices and you need the opinions, because time and technology is changing so fast and so often, and you actually need it. So
yes, sir.
I strongly encourage it.
Yes, sir. Grandma used to say this: time is filled with swift transition.
It is.
Naught on earth unmoved can stand. We got to build our hope on things eternal and hold to God's unchanging hand. Yes, sir.
Come on.
I'll pass the plate around in just a few. Julius Young, one of my classmates from the George P. Butler Comprehensive High School, what are you going to do to show transparency as mayor? Our current mayor has a lot to hide. Okay.
Well, I'm not going to address the current mayor, but as a person and as a business owner, there are 2 things that are sacred to me: is my word. And that if I look you in the eye and shake your hand, I don't have to sign a contract to it. I honor that. And then my good name. That's the truth. And my good name. The citizens of Augusta-Richmond County, or any government, deserves to know how their tax dollars are being spent. I've already said from day one, and this is not a boast or brag, I'm not going to take a county vehicle. I'm not going to take a gas card. I like to pay for my own travel in that. I think it's the right thing to do. Leading from the front requires somebody who's willing to start the process of credibility and accountability. Plus, I drive a pickup truck, and I have most of my life. I kind of like just riding around in an old dirty pickup truck, so I don't need the fancy car. I like driving myself. I don't need a driver per se, but I think that there's an opportunity to perhaps start a savings process right there. I plan to ask, with the commission's help, to see if we can get a operational and an efficiency review for every city department, just to see how we do things. That's something that hadn't been done since consolidation in 1996, where we were promised that we could get away from some of the duplicating roles or some of the redundant processes. We just got to take a look at how we do things, so that we could provide, in my opinion, some better opportunities for some of the people that are lower middle managers and employees with the city. I think we're top heavy. When you look at our departments and you look at some of the people that are being paid, they make a lot of money, but in the lower tiers where people have been with the county 8 or 10 or 12 years, they're struggling to get by. That's a crying shame. We're easy to give money to these high paid individuals, but hard to give money to these people that's been grinding it out and sacrificing their time, like our deputies and like our firefighters. We want to. I'm gonna call it what my great uncle called it. We're dollar wise. We're penny wise, but dollar foolish. We don't mind giving the top raises, but the bottom rung, they have to, catch hell just to get a dollar
to get by.
Just to get by. That's a shame, isn't it? These deputies, I hate it for them. They're working in these tight, intense environments, and they have to work, specials and extra duty just to get by. And one of the toughest fields in our country, and being a public servant and a public safety servant. So we just got to look at how we do those things. And I think the mayor owes the city of Augusta to operate with the highest level of integrity and the highest level of trustworthiness. Because believe it or not, they say the mayor does not have any power in Augusta, but he actually happens to be the first image that most people think about when they think about our city. So it has to be someone that operates with those principles and that level of trust.
That is absolutely right. Also, I guess kind of in addition to that, Rebecca's question is, do you intend to be visibly moving in the community even after you win, supporting community sports and other small business events? So I'm assuming that in addition to Julius's question, this kind of also goes to the fact that we've seen you a lot throughout the streets of Augusta, especially right here in South Augusta, where we're not used to seeing a lot of candidates or elected officials out in the public interacting with the community. Do you think that that's going to continue to be your goal, is to be involved outside with the community?
I don't think I know it is. That's who I am. People that really know me that say they don't know who Garnett Johnson is. I'm always visible out in the community, but I tend not to be want to be front and center and talk about being visible. We do. That's who we are. So some of the things, as I told you, we got to get our small businesses growing. We got to get South Augusta growing, and that's going to be my focus. Downtown is going to be fine. Like I told you, it's like that other kid that does well. You let him go, they're still going to make A's. It's that kid that's struggling that needs a little help. South Augusta is that kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm going to be. I will always, and here's a pledge to anybody who's considering voting for me. As mayor, I will always have a fiscal presence in South Augusta until I get you winning again. I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to, after this campaign is over, close the office and then focus downtown. If I win tomorrow, we're going to keep that headquarters in South Augusta open. We're going to find ways to get something that contributes back to the citizens. And we got a lot of great ideas. A lot of people are reaching out, but I'm hearing they want healthy food options. They want better choices on.
Not me.
Well, that's what I hear. They said we want no more fast food places. We want some healthy food options. We want some sit-down restaurants. What else I hear? We want better transportation.
Yes.
We want our streets improved, so when I'm driving at night, I can see the damn lines in the road.
Talk about it. I be on my sneaky links trying to creep at night, and I be.
You can't do it. So I promise you, that's where we will be. We're going to be there. We've already reached out to the people that are willing to make the investments. Now I'm going to ask the folks of Augusta to help me do one thing. Help me keep the city clean. That's something that don't cost anybody anything.
That's right.
I operate a business downtown, and I was just sitting looking outside, and I saw this car pull up to the red light and stop. They had dark tinted ones. They let the window down and threw out a whole bag of trash. They just threw it out. Rolled the window up. And I was like, I can't believe they just threw the whole bag out. And then the window comes down, and then they threw the cup out.
Left something. Get that out of here. Hand me that.
My goodness, we have to address that. Please make an effort to keep this community clean, and let's get some enforcement with teeth to where people, it's something that doesn't cost a lot of money, but it's like where you live. You have pride in where you live and how it represents who you are. And that's what we have to start in Augusta. Get this campaign going again, get people positive. And I promise you, I'm going to be there with you. It's not going to be my team. I'm going to be there with you. That's my promise. That's my pledge. And if I don't, you hold me accountable to that.
Absolutely. I'll remember that you said it right here on the Tyrus Tillman Show. A couple of more questions we'll get to. I do want to be respectful, Mr. Johnson, of your time, but hey, I'm enjoying the conversation. Also, Greg Hill, a great dear friend of mine slash family member. Tobacco Road from the airport to Fort Gordon can be a gateway for economic development. Any thoughts on that, Mr. Johnson?
I got a whole lot of thoughts on that. Recently this community just spent a lot of money to improve and enhance the gate at Gate 6, which it kind of is closer to the Grovetown corridor, but they left Gate 5 all behind. Gate 5 is so important to the many folks that live along the Tobacco Road corridor to get on base. And I think that's one of the undefining economic opportunities we can have. And that Mr. Hill is right. Getting from the airport to Fort Gordon, you got to travel down Tobacco Road unless you're crazy enough to go all the way around. We got to somehow enhance those opportunities and grow that gate so we can help and create the economic opportunities for South Augusta.
Absolutely.
It's important, and that especially as the missions through cyber grow out at Fort Gordon, we got to entice more people to want to live in South Augusta. As a member of that board that I told you that I was appointed to, as a member of that board, as mayor, I get to continue to serve, and I'm gonna be the biggest cheerleader for Augusta to get some of these opportunities here that we're landing in other parts of the state. And I'm gonna tell you some of the challenges. People say, as I'm sitting there, it's like, why can't we get Augusta moving in? They say, well, Augusta's perceived as this community that's always fighting. You're fighting with Columbia County. The commission's always fighting. So no one wants to relocate up or put opportunities in the community.
Everybody fighting.
Always fighting. They got challenges with the schools. So somehow we got to improve our image. And I think I'm the right candidate to do that. As I told you, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm an Augustan. That's who I am. And that's what we need as mayor. Somebody that, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. And you need somebody that can sit down and say, all right, how can we move this community forward in a way that enhances the lives of all Augusta? That's what we need. And that's what I want to do. I have some great ideas that I can't share publicly, and I got some great opportunities I'm not going to share publicly. But as your mayor, we're going to share them after we get them started. We ain't going to talk about what we're going to do.
You're going to be about what you're talking about, huh?
Right. You got it.
I love it.
There's a lot of great opportunities. And I think South Augusta is an untapped jewel in getting that accomplished. And that, they have, still have plenty of opportunities for housing, plenty of opportunity for development. And we just need to improve upon that.
I love that. I am going to slide in just a thought that just came to mind. Like I said, I am a South Augusta native. So, born, raised, educated, still reside now in South Augusta again. And
I'm going to ask you that. What part of South Augusta?
So right now I live in the Pepperidge subdivision. I was born and raised in the Butler Manor / Woodlake. Grandma lived in Butler Manor. And then my sister and my mom lived in Woodlake.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
so, very good.
Absolutely. So Butler Manor was my family's house. And then the other side of my family's house, which we called our home house, was down on 13th Avenue. When my grandmother and her siblings migrated to Augusta from Lincoln County. So my roots are from Lincoln County, Georgia. They purchased the house down on 13th Avenue. And so my mom, my uncles, and most of my older family were born and raised in that house downtown. So we have a shared connection to both sides of all sides, really, of Augusta. So
now you see the connection. You got this city country. You got this Lincoln County.
Absolutely, that down home southern connection, all up and through the region. Absolutely. And then my father, my paternal family is all from out of Allen Homes and East Augusta and so forth. So my family is all throughout the city. That's why I can't go nowhere without somebody seeing me. So I'm always on my best behavior. But I wanted to say, or ask, just for myself, when we start seeing South Augusta, starts flourishing, and businesses and all of this growth that we're talking about, and we've been talking about since I was a child in the early in the late 80s and early 90s even, what happens to me, a property owner in South Augusta, and the value of my home and so forth, or those apartment complexes that are around here, will people still be able to live here and afford to live here, maybe working some of the same jobs that they are now? What happens with that growth?
Well, with the growth comes what I call growing your wealth. As your property becomes more valuable, your net worth gets higher, and that's where it should be.
Right.
You shouldn't make an investment today and only be fortunate to reap a return of the same investment. You should be able to buy a home, and it should increase in value a number of times. And that's one thing we have to do in South Augusta. We have to, one, some of the existing houses, and you probably remember this. Meadowbrook Drive, South Augusta used to be a crown jewel of South Augusta.
Mhm.
Sometimes it, concerns me in what it's become.
Right.
A lot of people, a lot of the neighbors that have lived there a long time, where they still have pride in their neighborhoods, they're concerned with, some of the perceived element that are moving in their communities with the Section 8 vouchers. Somehow we got to get to a sense to where people, want to call it home, to where they feel safe and that their investment will actually increase in value. We have to get back to that some sort of way, and
right.
that can only be done by creating economic opportunities, jobs for people, so that they can afford to live the way that they should live as an American. You know what I mean? Having a nice house, have the assurance of knowing that when I go to work, I don't have to worry about somebody kicking my door in.
Talk about it.
That I have a safe neighborhood where everybody maintains their lawns and keeps this curb appeal and picks up the trash. That's what we have to get to going. And here's the most important aspect of that. We got to get people earning enough money to want to encourage them and entice them into home ownership.
That's right.
Shouldn't be renting. Should be buying those houses. If you've lived in a house or rented for a year or two, you should be thinking along the lines of how can I move over to home ownership, and that's who I am. I've always been a person that believed in picking yourself up from where you become or from where you are to moving forward into higher and better aspirations, and that's who I've been. As I told you, I grew up in this ragged house with gas heaters. You had to stand in front of them to warm up in the winter.
And and they burn you too, so don't
burn you. You stand there too long, they burn you. And from a place that I was embarrassed as a kid to take people to where we live okay now, but we have to show others the same path. It's not how you start. It's not how you start. It's how you end.
Preach, sir.
It's not how you start, and we got to show people that there are other ways. Yep.
That's absolutely correct. Thank you so much for that. I remember those heaters. Our home house down on 13th Avenue had one. I never understood why they didn't have central heat and air. Of course, obviously, it didn't make sense to me as a child, right? The older I got, I realized it was more expensive to have central heat and air.
It was more expensive, and our central heat and air, you had a fan in the window, and if you did have an air conditioner in the house, it was in your parents' room or in the living room. So it was in the living room when company came. Right. In the family room when company came, they turn it on whenever you had company, but otherwise you're gonna turn on a fan.
That's right. That takes me back to the late 80s, early 90s of my childhood. My God. I just got hot and saw itching thinking about it. Close my door.
That's right. You're right.
Thank you, sir, for that. Natalie Hudson, we grew up together, church member and friend, classmate, also a Bulldog. How will your leadership support the Richmond County schools and students? So the partnership between the city government and the school board, we know can sometimes use some work. How would you, as a mayor of Augusta-Richmond County, benefit us in bridging that gap?
Yeah, I've always said there needs to be better collaboration with the Richmond County Commission and the mayor's office and the Board of Education. Personally, I've already started having those conversations. I'm chairman of the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce, and we got this committee called the Business Education Advisory Committee, where we're already engaged in the Richmond County school system with creating jobs through a program called Students to Work, where we take 11th graders that are in the Richmond County school system and place them with employers throughout our community, creating jobs and showing them different paths, career options and career paths. But as mayor, I'd like to take that a step further. I think there needs to be more engagement, not only with the commission and the school board, but we need to get more of our faith-based community engaged in our school system through mentoring opportunities. One study that I just want to just bring to note, and I think that this is a pretty good statistic. They say more than 90% of the third graders in Richmond County schools are not at least reading on a first grade level. And as you know, literacy is a major problem. If kids can't learn to read, they tend to struggle. They get embarrassed and they say, I don't know if school's for me. I don't know if it fits in for me, and it tends to lead to other problems like discipline problems or behavioral problems. So I want to make sure that we start early on by creating reading programs. And the way to get it done is through these faith-based organizations, these churches. There are a lot of retired teachers that want to help, but they may not want to go to the classroom setting or school setting. But perhaps we can get them involved in the churches and just start some of the simplest things. Start reading the kids or get kids reading to you in small groups so we can at least tackle that problem first. Let's get our literacy rates up with our first graders. And I tell people all the time, don't give your kids these phones and these tablets. Give them a book. Let them read to you. That way we can start improving, this community. And it's going to take everybody, not only the commission, the mayor's office, the school board. It's going to take our entire community to get that going. So that's where I would start.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for that. You mentioned those were retirees that are long gone from the classroom and ain't trying to go back.
They ain't trying to go back. When I talked to them, I was like, "Will you help me?" They said, "Hell no, them kids ain't going back, no way." What will it take? You go to church every Sunday. You look to help. Would you take 2 or 3 and just maybe at the church, just not a classroom? Let's just start reading.
That's right.
Let's start out in pre-K, first grade, and develop some curriculum to help them just to improve that 90% rate. Let's get it to 70 and 60. Let's get it moving. And the reception has been overwhelming by these educators that say that, yes, I'll do that, but I don't want to be in the classroom doing it.
I don't blame them because, Mr. Johnson, I go to some of these schools sometimes. I don't have any children of my own, bless God for that.
Right.
But I'm not fortunate enough to be a parent, but I am a godparent. I have nieces and nephews who are still in the Richmond County school system, who are doing quite well in their respective schools. But when I go visit sometimes, I'm like, some of these students, I'm like, I went to school with your parents. I get it now. I understand. I understand, especially in the elementary and middle school setting, it can get rough.
It can get rough. And that's something to say for you being a young man. So you can imagine how I look at it when I go. I'm like, my God.
Right.
Well, I'm going to tell you a funny story. And I know we got to wrap up on time. I don't want to take all that. So I got this friend who retired from the military, who's service disabled through combat. And he said, somebody enticed him to come back and contribute his time in a school because they said, we need more black males in the school system to come help out. And he did it. Mm-hmm. He went to a school. I'm not going to call the school name. He lasted about a half a day. He went in it for the right reasons. Said, I want to go help our young black men and that there are challenges. He left. He said, I had to go smoke a joint after spending a half a day. The kids were cursing. They were disrespectful. And he went to the principal and said, "It was cuss." I didn't realize you could cuss in school now. So back in my day, you had never cursed in school, man.
You knew not to, right?
No, but he said, I just couldn't believe it. And that, after that day, he never went back. And that, he was so discouraged. And I don't know, but like I said, it takes people that are really and genuinely interested in helping. And I think it has to be outside of the school setting in smaller groups. And that's why I would try to get a contingent of folks to help out in that effort.
Awesome, sir. Thank you so much for that. Hello, Monique Braswell, another dear, great friend of mine. I love my Monique Braswell. Hello. Mr. Johnson, right before we wrap up, I do have your website pulled up here, sir, and I do want to just share one or two of your video clips here, sure, just for the viewing audience, so they too can see how to access your website as well as what information is available there. So I'm going to get this pulled up here. And I will mute myself. Let me remove this comment here. All right, so I'm going to play a quick video or two, Mr. Johnson, and then, sir, I will afford you a few moments to close us out. How about that?
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
We're all struggling to pay for gas. Why should the taxpayers have to pay for mine too? As mayor, day one, I'll hand over the city-funded gas card in the vehicle too, and I'll pay for my own travel. With prices like these, someone has to be on the side of the taxpayer. As your mayor, I'll lead from the front. Living in this city is the only perk I need. I'm Garnett Johnson from Augusta for Augusta, and I look forward to being your next mayor. I grew up in this city and worked from the bottom up. I know hard work. I watched my mom drive a school bus here in Richmond County while raising 2 kids, and I graduated college while working a full-time job. I've built a successful business in Augusta, and I'm currently appointed to the board that has made Georgia the #1 state for business for the past 8 years. Together, we would do the same for our city. Judge me on growth, action, and results. I'm Garnett Johnson from Augusta for Augusta. I look forward to being your next mayor. Well, I tell you, that video is who I am, in that I'm just a son of a school bus driver, a lady who, my mother, who quit a second shift job to drive in a school bus so that she could keep me out of trouble. She drove that school bus to get me to Butler High School, and that she realized that, my future was at stake, and that I was running with the wrong crowd, and she cared enough for me to intervene in my life and to make a difference. Now, I'm fortunate that I had this upbringing in the inner city, and I tell people the 2 most powerful things is you take someone who has some street creds and some street sense, and you couple that with a formal education. That's a powerful combination, in that you have somebody that can relate to just about anything. In this race, I'm disadvantaged in that people don't know who I am because it's been intentional on my part. I've only been focused on doing and not talking about doing anything. I'm an underdog, and I accept that. In my entire life, I've been an underdog, being, young, poor, and black in a high crime area where there's not a lot of opportunities. But one thing I realize is that it's not how you start, it's how you finish. I have work ethic. I know how to get things done. I'm a people person, in that I believe that Augusta deserves someone who's outside of the political cliques and the political in crowd. And that's something that I pride myself in. So I've entered in this race and asked to become your mayor based on some simple facts. And that's nothing to brag about, but it's something to be stated, that Augusta is not growing. If you're sick and tired of the same old people that's taking your votes for granted and rotating among your elected positions and they're not getting anything done, tomorrow you can make that change. May 24th, 7 a.m. voting starts. If you haven't voted already, it gives you an opportunity to let your voice be heard instead of the voice of those few who think they control everything. So, as I mentioned earlier, this great democracy states that the people decide who our elected leaders are. The people. So tomorrow is your turn to decide who you want to see as the 85th mayor for the city of Augusta. And I would ask that you would consider me, but not before you go and do your research on the other 8 candidates that are in this race. Our democracy, and I expect you to do your homework. You look at my background on making investments in this city independent of government dollars, someone who's working in the community without talking about it, someone who's given to this community who doesn't talk about it. That's what we need as a leader. Now, don't let them fool you in thinking and divide you not only on partisanship and on race and say he's a Republican or he's a Democrat or he's black or he's white. At the end of the day, as I told you before, we're all Augustans, and you need someone that's in the room at the table to get Augusta growing and going, and I am that candidate. So my name is Garnett Johnson. I'm from East Augusta, and I'm proud to say it. I'd like to earn your vote tomorrow. I'd like to earn your trust, and I promise you, I will always be accessible. I promise you, I will always operate with the highest level of integrity, and I promise you, I won't let you down. My name is Garnett Johnson. I'm from Augusta for Augusta. Mr. Tillman, I can't thank you enough for giving me this opportunity. This means a lot.
Oh, sir, the privilege and honor is all mine, sir. Thank you again for accepting the invite, coming on, sharing with us. I've learned so much more about you, sir. A deeper level of respect for you. Anybody who can come and have a transparent, open conversation live when you can't control what people say and how they say it, is always somebody who's all right with me. So good luck to you, sir. I think that you have ran an awesome, a nice, clean campaign. And I know that in politics, that's not something that we expect, and that's probably unfortunate. But I think, sir, that you've done a great job of explaining who you are, what you've done, and what you're going to do. And so if my peers here in the CSRA agree that you should be our next mayor, then I look forward to working with you, sir. and continuing this work that you've done in our community. And any way that I can be of assistance to you, here's my hand to you, sir.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate the opportunity to all of your viewers and listeners. Thank you guys so much. Have a blessed night. And please, if you should have any questions regarding my background, if I can answer any question for you, as your mayor, we're going to answer the question. We don't run from anybody. That's not who I am. We're going to talk about it. We're going to agree. We're going to disagree. We're going to part ways, but we don't run and hide. That's not who we are. So thank you.
Especially when you're from the bottom.
That's
thank
right.
you, Mr. Johnson. You have a great night, sir.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Bye-bye, guys.
Too.
Good night.
All right, so as you all have heard from the man himself, that was Mr. Garnett Johnson running for Augusta-Richmond County Mayor. Tomorrow is election day, Tuesday, May 24th. The polls open at, I believe, 7 a.m. Make sure that you go out and cast your ballot. Please vote. It is so important that we get out and exercise our right to vote. We've heard all of the talk about the new voting laws and this, that, and the third, but one thing that they cannot take from you, from any of us, is our right to vote. So go out and vote. I'm not telling you who to vote for. That's not the purpose of my platform nor my show. I just want to get the information to you. I want you to have access to ask the tough questions that so many of you wanted to ask. Last week we had Mr. Stephen Kendrick, who's running for mayor, and tonight Mr. Garnett Johnson. I have a great deal of respect for both of these gentlemen, and I really appreciate them coming on to the Tyrus Tillman Show and finding it necessary to reach out to the audience. So thank you also again to Rebecca. I want to personally thank her again. That's Rebecca Salter, for reaching out and saying, hey, Tyrus, we got to get this done. You got to get this done. Interviewing Mr. Garnett Johnson, I think, is a great opportunity for your viewers to get some information about him. And she did the legwork and the footwork while I was away on vacation, disconnecting from the world. So thank you, Rebecca, for doing so. And again, to Mr. Johnson and staff for accepting the invite and joining us tonight. So that's all the time that I have for tonight. Of course, I am just fresh off of my vacation. I've spent the last several days in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, celebrating my 35th birthday. I had an awesome time. And so there's nothing more for me to do but just rest until it's time to keep it moving in these streets. Thanks again for tuning in. I am Tyrus Tillman of the Tyrus Tillman Show, and I appreciate and love every last one of you, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing, that you can do about it. Hey, my friends, I see that y'all are tuned in. Hey, Nakia Cody, Pearl Holmes, thank you all so much. Rebecca said it best. Don't just vent. Vote, Augusta. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great night. Thanks, Natalie. I appreciate you. Thank you all so much. And please, please, please tell someone, anybody, everywhere, no matter where they at, to go vote. Thank y'all.